This is Dr. Kraus, and the deadline for the Ethical Issues and Societal Impacts paper has been on the syllabus since the first day of class. Um, but it may have snuck up on you a little bit, maybe snuck up on me a little bit. We're just getting back from spring break and all of that. I didn't want to have a lecture specific to this, and there's kind of not time since I'm trying to meet with groups in my office, anyways. So I posted this presentation. You can just read through it. You don't necessarily have to watch this video. I don't think I'm going to say anything super profound, but I thought I would record a video just the same. So you look at this paper and you might think that this is kind of fluffy, kind of silly. Why am I making you jump through hoops? And the bottom line is that ABET, the Accreditation Board for Engineering and Technology, which is the organization that basically decides we have a real degree program, makes us do this. And so I care about society, I care about ethics, whatever. I don't have a super big interest in making you do this myself, but I don't have a choice because we have to assess some things related to this paper, and so there's just no way getting around it. But I also make it worth 5% of your grade just so that you take it seriously, so that we have good stuff to report to ABET, and you're showing me some amount of effort. Sorry, I woke up a little bit congested this morning, so I'm a little bit nasally. Sorry, this might sound a little funny. So basically, your assignment is to write a 2-page paper where you recognize and discuss two things. What are the ethical issues associated with your project, and what are the possible impacts of your project on society? The outcomes that are listed on the syllabus that I'm supposed to assess is whether or not our graduates have an understanding of professional and ethical responsibility, and then also whether or not you have the broad education necessary to understand the impact of engineering solutions in a global economic, environmental, and societal context. And at some level, those are very important things. They're very hard to measure, and I don't know, how do we know that? I mean, you have to take an engineering ethics class, and so that's one way that we try to make sure. But how do you make somebody ethical? You kind of can't. I don't know. That's tricky. And then also, when you graduate, you are going to go out and get jobs, and there's going to be societal aspects to what you do, and you're going to be economic aspects to what you do. And so we're just trying to get you thinking about those things and trying to assess whether or not you are prepared to think about those things, which again is difficult to do. So, for example, what are some possible ethical issues associated with a senior design project? We don't have one in our class this time, but there's often a Baja project. And so in the past, the students working on those projects have talked about how those competitions consume fossil fuels, they generate pollution, they cause erosion, those kind of things. And so you might have to ask, do the costs of those kind of events outweigh the benefits? And I think they do. I mean, you have just the ways that they help students grow as engineers and are getting students to think about some of the challenges we have with regards to automotive engineering, so on and so forth. And so I certainly don't think we should consider stopping SAE Baja. I mean, you can make the same arguments about NASCAR races. They consume massive amounts of fuel, but really compared to the fuel that we consume every day as a nation commuting back and forth to work is actually really pretty small. But then they make a bunch of engineering discoveries as a result of those NASCAR races, whatever. So there are some ethical issues associated with Baja, which are really associated with all motorsports. And maybe slightly less because we're growing students and that kind of thing. And so there's maybe more value on some level to what we do. Okay, and then maybe an example of a possible societal impact. Just try to ask yourself, how might our project affect the lives of others or affect the economy or whatever. And so some groups this year are doing projects that have the potential to have really large impacts on people in developing countries, for example. And so that's an example of a societal impact that we should definitely be talking about. As engineers, we should be trying to use our skills and abilities to benefit other people however we can. Okay, so there's not a very complicated rubric for this project, so I'm just going to basically ask a few questions as I'm grading you. One, how many ethical and possible societal impacts did you come up with, and did you miss any obvious ones? Did you intelligently discuss the issues and impacts that you recognized? And did you put effort into the paper, or does it look like you just did the absolute minimum you could to make this thing go away? And then finally, is your paper well written? Like I said, there's not any more detailed rubric than this. It's only 2 pages. It's not something I'm going to put that much effort into being super specific about how I grade it. So you're going to be graded based on the questions on this slide, and then there's also formatting requirements on the next slide. So one of the things we had a little bit of trouble with on the proposals this year was people thinking that my formatting guidelines were just kind of suggestions. This is a 2-page paper. That means it should be longer than 1.5 pages, and that it must not spill onto a third page. Other ways that people try to cheat this, I'm having a really, really large header at the top with everybody's name on a separate line and all of that stuff. Don't do those kind of things. Try to give me a legitimate 2-page paper. With that, I'd like you to use an 11-point font. It will be single spaced, and you will have 1-inch margins. It is due a week from tomorrow. Like I said, it's 2 pages. Most of you have a little bit of this kind of content already in your proposals, and you can borrow that or copy and paste that and then just build on that or whatever. But I do need you to put some effort into this paper. Thank you, and feel free to email me if you have any questions.